Hey everyone, if you're new here, my name's Lottie, and if you're a subscriber, welcome back to my channel. I don't know about you, but I am so glad that it's finally starting to feel like spring. I think now that we've got daylight savings on our side, like I can just feel the seasonal depression evaporating from my veins, and there's just no better feeling. If you didn't know, I am the biggest seasonal mood reader, and I feel like it could sometimes be a little bit challenging to find the right thing, specifically in the spring, because it's kind of that in between like a fantasy winter and a romance summer. So I've pulled some great options today, and I'm really excited to talk about them with you. This video is going to have 4 main sections with 5 book recs in each section, and I'm going to timestamp them out below, so feel free to skip around, do you, have fun. To kick things off, we're talking about some of my personal faves. These are all books that I've read and enjoyed, and I just think that there's something to them that would hit different reading it in the spring. And book number 1 is Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. This is a literary fiction novel about love and growing up, and it's set in the spring of 2020. The story follows Laura, who lives on an orchard in northern Michigan. The setting is so atmospheric. Like, I just want to go chill on her cherry orchard and read this book. And basically, Laura's 3 daughters all come home for the pandemic. I'm pretty sure they're like all in their 20s, and they beg their mom to tell them the story of Peter Duke from her younger days. Peter Duke turned out to be a pretty famous actor, but before that, he shared a stage with Laura at a theater company called Tom Lake, and they also had a bit of a romance. So the daughters are just begging for the juicy details. They're like, "Mom, it's time. You have to tell us." You get flashback chapters to Laura's youth and then present day chapters on the orchard. And it's really fun kind of coming back to the present timeline and getting some of the daughters' reactions to parts of the story. I had so much fun with this one, and it's especially great on audiobook. I'm sure you may have heard that, but Meryl Streep narrates it, and she just does a fantastic job. So if you're looking for a good audiobook to listen to while you do some spring cleaning, I feel like this is a top contender. Okay, my next seasonal favorite is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is a YA romance novel that follows Wes and Liz during the spring of their senior year of high school. The basic plot of this book is that Liz is trying to catch the attention of her longtime crush Michael because she wants to go to prom with him, and her neighbor Wes is friends with Michael, so she's gonna enlist Wes to help her. It's a really sweet rom-com that's kind of dedicated to rom-coms. There are quotes from iconic scenes in famous rom-com movies kind of sprinkled all throughout this book, which is really fun. And I feel like a lot of the plot kind of centers around senior year spring, going to prom, and all that fun kind of end of the year stuff. So for that reason, I feel like it would be so great to read this time of year. This is kind of like the YA romance book. Like, everyone loves this book, and it's a great intro to Lynn Painter, who has a lot of other great YA romance books. So if you haven't read anything from her, this is a great place to start, and I just feel like it's perfect for spring. Okay, another seasonal favorite that I have for spring is a little bit more of like a fantasy book, and this is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. It's like a spring fantasy to me because it's not like super creepy or dark. It's kind of just like whimsical and fantastical and fun. This book follows Linus Baker, who's sent by his job to go check out this magical orphanage with some very unique children and a mysterious caretaker. It's really a heartwarming novel full of like found family and just a celebration of the things that all make us different. It seriously is just such a heartwarming book, and it has such a great message. And this one also is excellent on audiobook. I wanted to throw in some audiobook recs with this section because I feel like with spring cleaning, I definitely am going to be listening to some audiobooks. So this would be another great one to listen to. The narrator does little voices for all of the different magical creatures and characters, and it's just like top notch. Honestly, I kind of recommend the audio over the actual book. I think it made it even better, but this is just a really, really charming story. Okay, book number 4 that's on my seasonal favorites list is a little bit of an unconventional one, and it's The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I feel like most people would look at this book and think that that is a fall book, and I thought the same. But as I was reading it, I thought to myself, man, I kind of wish I read this in the spring. The story is about Florence, who is a ghostwriter for her job. So she basically writes romance novels for a really famous author, but she's suffering major writer's block after a terrible breakup, and she claims that she no longer believes in love. She can't write a romance story, and she's just totally stuck. Florence really needs an extension on her deadline, but her new grumpy editor will not give it to her. But then she gets a phone call that she did not want to get, and she has to go home for some reason that I won't tell you. And when she gets home, she ends up finding a ghost who she kind of forms a relationship with, who kind of helps her through some of the things she's been struggling with. And that's really all I'll tell you. You need to just trust me on this one. But like a ghost romance, you're like, why would I not read that in the fall? This story is really about like rebirth and like starting fresh. It's set, I'm pretty sure, in like March or April, and it's very atmospheric, and it just like would be the perfect thing to read this time of year, especially if you like are a lover of like ghost romances and Halloween, but you want something that feels a little more springy. Like, this is chef's kiss, the perfect choice. And my fifth and final seasonal spring favorite is This Time Tomorrow by Emma Straub. This is a literary fiction book that's kind of like a time travel trope. It's one of those like, what would you change if you could kind of books. But I just really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was so great. It basically follows Alice, who wakes up on her 40th birthday as her 16-year-old self, getting a chance to relive some of her past with knowledge of what happens in her future. It's really sweet, it's reflective, it's funny at times. It's got a lot of heart, and it's really just a celebration of the love between a parent and a child. So if you're feeling extra grateful for either of your parents, this is a great one. Like for Mother's Day or Father's Day, I just feel like, especially Father's Day, this one kind of focuses on Alice's relationship with her father quite a bit, but just with parents in general, this was so heartwarming. I loved it, and I just think like spring can be such like a fresh start and a time to be grateful and reflective, and this story just kind of felt like that to me. Plus it has a blurb from the Queen, Emily Henry, on the back, and she says, "The kind of book that will make you laugh, make you cry, and make you call the people you love." Now let's talk about my spring TBR, the books that are at the top of my want to read list this season. First up, we have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I think this is kind of like a Regency era fantasy book. So if you're looking for more of like a spring vibe in your fantasy books, I feel like Regency really feels like fresh and spring to me. It's giving Bridgerton, but fantasy, you know? And I feel like Bridgerton is very spring to me. And I've just heard nothing but good things about Half a Soul. It follows our main female character, Dora, in Regency England, who literally has half a soul. From what I've heard, she was cursed by a fairy who took half her soul, which means that she doesn't get embarrassed by things, she has no sense of fear, and it makes her prone to scandal pretty easily, which, as you can imagine, when trying to find a husband in Regency England, not the best combo. But then I think one of the handsome lords of the season discovers her condition, which draws her into some peculiar fairy affairs. It's described as Bridgerton meets Howl's Moving Castle, so sign me up. I'm there. The next book on my spring TBR is Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. I mean, look at this cover. Is this not spring in a cover? This is a contemporary romance novel about a woman who unexpectedly gets pregnant. And I think it's ultimately a romance, but also kind of a contemporary women's fiction story, just about handling the curveballs life throws at you. And I've just heard literally nothing but good things. I actually recently just finished Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone, which is her new release, and I absolutely loved it. So it has me really eager to read this one as well. I do think this book takes place over the course of about a year, but a lot of the people who recommend this book say that it's great to read in the spring. So it's on my TBR. The next book on my spring TBR is actually a bit more of a classic, which is Anne of Green Gables. I never read this book growing up, and I do think it's more of like a middle grades book, so it would be like a pretty easy read, I would assume. I think the basic plot is that it's about Anne Shirley, a vibrant orphan girl who brings love, chaos, and adventure to the quiet community of Green Gables. I've heard it's just a timeless story about finding belonging and finding home. And I want to do better about reading a few more classics this year, and this feels like low-hanging fruit. It feels like an easy one where it's super seasonal, and one of my favorite romance books last year, This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune, actually referenced Anne of Green Gables quite a bit, and I was kind of bummed I didn't quite understand all the references. I mean, you didn't need to enjoy that book, but I would love to be able to understand more of those references going forward. So I just feel like it's one on my bucket list that I want to check off soon. All right, another book on my spring TBR is actually The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is a really famous, popular fantasy. I think it's a trilogy, and it's YA, and so many people love this series, so I definitely want to see what all the hype's about. This book is about Jude, who, when she was 7 years old, her parents were murdered, and she and her two sisters were taken away to go live in the fairy realm. And now 10 years later, at age 17, Jude is just feeling like she doesn't belong. Like, she's human, but she really wants to fit in with the fairies because that's where she's grown up. But as you can imagine, many fae despise the humans, especially the prince of the fairy realm, Prince Carden. And I think that's the basic setup of this one, but I've just heard it's good to read in the spring, honestly. I think it's a little bit lighter and just like has a little bit more of a spring setting for whatever reason. So it's on my TBR. Okay, and then the fifth and final book I want to talk about on my spring TBR today is She Really Going Out With Him by Sophie Cousins. I read The Good Part by Sophie Cousins back in September and loved it, gave it 4.5 stars. This is Sophie Cousins' new release that came out last year. If you like rom-coms, you should read this. I did some research, and I don't think it's set during any specific time of year, but I just feel like spring is such a great time for rom-coms. The back of the book calls it How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days meets He's Just Not That Into You, which just sounds incredible. And I just think this would be a nice, fun, lighthearted romance to read in the spring. So I want to get to it soon. If you're wanting to make the most of your KU subscription this spring, I've got a couple of recommendations. A few of them I've read, and then a few of them are on my TBR, but I wanted to just call out some ones that could be good for spring. The first one is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I haven't read this yet. It's actually on my March TBR, but I did some research and this is set in late winter, early spring, so I feel like March is the perfect time to read this. This is the Knock 'Em Out series, so there's 3 books in this interconnected series, and it's like a small town romance series. It seems like a spring little bingeable moment. It's on my TBR, and if you want to read something on KU, this whole series is on there, so it could be a fun one. Okay, the next Kindle Unlimited recommendation I have is another one that's on my TBR, which is I Hope This Finds You Well. This one actually was nominated for a Goodreads choice for Best Literary Fiction, I'm pretty sure, last year, and I actually started reading this one the other day, and I got like a chapter or 2 in, and I was really enjoying it so far. It's an office comedy about Jolene, who accidentally gains access to her colleagues' private emails. I've heard it's just a fun, quirky take on office life and finding connections where you least expect it. And if you're looking for something that's a little bit more lighthearted and humorous, but still has like some literary like substance to it, I feel like this could be a good option. Another book on Kindle Unlimited that I think could be great to read in the spring is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is like a super famous viral book talk book. It deserves the hype. This book is the epic and tragic love story of Achilles and Patroclus. How do you say his name, guys? Patroclus? You don't need to be a big Greek mythology person to understand this book, honestly. And I'm pretty sure there's a glossary, and it's super easy to just like quickly Google anything that's confusing you, but like this is really not that confusing of a book, and it's all set against the backdrop of the Trojan War, which is super interesting. I feel like it's a great entry into Greek mythology fiction, and it's so well done. My next KU rec is one of my favorites, which is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This is my favorite book from Catherine Center that I've read. It's, I think, her best. But if you're just looking for a fun contemporary romance for the spring, I read this one last spring and it was so good. Like the vibes, it was just, and I'm pretty sure it's set in spring from what I remember. It follows Hannah, who is a professional bodyguard. So you've got the main female character as the bodyguard, which is so much fun. And Hannah is basically pretending to be this famous Hollywood star's girlfriend to protect him. So you've got fake dating, you've got the one of them is famous trope, you've got even like a little bit of workplace. It's just so good. It's got romance, it's got humor, it's got like an actual plot. I flew through it in like 3 days. Okay, and then the final KU rec is another one that's on my TBR, and that is Addicted to You by Kristen Becker Ritchie. This is a whole like 8-book series, I'm pretty sure, which is the Addicted and Calloway Sisters series, but so many people love this series, and I think that they're all on Kindle Unlimited, so if you need like a great series to binge this spring, this could be a great option. I was doing some research and it seems like this book is set during spring break, so if you are on spring break, this could be a great one to read. I think this book follows our main female character, Lily Calloway, who has a big secret, and that's that she's addicted to sex. And the only person that knows Lily's secret is Lauren Hale, who happens to have a secret of his own, and that's that he's addicted to alcohol. And for 3 years, the two of them have been in a fake relationship, hiding their addictions from their families. And I think it's just kind of a story about how sometimes finding the only way out is by hitting rock bottom first. I don't know that this is going to be like the most lighthearted read for spring, but because it's all set on the backdrop of spring break and it just feels like a good like college drama, I just feel like this is one that I could just sit and binge in a day. Okay, those are all of the KU books that caught my eye. Now let's talk about some buzzy new releases. And they're largely romance because I feel like those all come out in April in anticipation of like summer beach reads. And I just know we're going to be seeing everyone reading these books the next few months. So wanted to call them out for anyone who's a little more of a trendy reader, wants to plan some buddy reads this spring. These books I think are going to be everywhere and I'm so excited for them. First up is one that actually came out at the beginning of March, and that is Wild Side by Elsie Silver. It's like #1 on Kindle this week, and this one's on Kindle Unlimited too. But this is the 3rd book in Elsie Silver's Rose Hill series. So if you want to get caught up, these are the first 2 in the series, but all of them are on Kindle Unlimited. So we've got Wild Love, Wild Eyes, and now Wild Side. This is a small town single dad romance series. So if that sounds like your vibe, these could be a lot of fun. They're nothing like too critically acclaimed, but they are my guilty pleasure. They're so bingeable and just fun. Elsie Silver also is very famous for her Chestnut Springs series, and that is all on KU as well. But she is definitely a trendy, popular author right now, especially for my romance lovers. The next new release that I think is going to be everywhere very soon comes out April 1st, and that is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Our queen, Abby Jimenez, is blessing us with a new release very soon. Her incredible book from last year called Just for the Summer is actually also on KU, so you could definitely read that one and see if you like her vibe in anticipation of her new release. The basic plot of this one is that we've got Samantha and Xavier. They go on a perfect date, but Samantha, facing a family crisis, is ready to walk away from it all, but some connections just refuse to be ignored. This one's gonna eat. I just already know. can't wait to read it. Next up on April 8th, we've got Fearless by Lauren Roberts. This is the third and final book in the Powerless trilogy. This is another super trendy series right now. Let me grab Powerless. So if you're new here, Powerless trilogy, it's great if you're just getting in fantasy. I feel like it's such a bingeable book. I loved Powerless. I didn't love Reckless as much. That's the second book. And then the third book, Fearless, is coming out on April 8th. I'm really excited to see how Lauren Roberts ties up the end of the series. We've got our main female character, Peyton, who lives in this kingdom where everyone has a power, except some people don't. And Peyton doesn't have a power. They're called ordinaries, and people with powers are called elites. So the elites rule the kingdom, run the society, and all of the ordinaries are forced to kind of like live in this slum, basically. And Peyton basically is trying to get by making people think that she has like this psychic ability and that's her power. And she accidentally ends up saving one of the princes of the kingdom. And then she gets thrown into these purging trials, which are basically these brutal Hunger Games style trials that the kingdom holds every year in order to show off the youth elite power. And she's like, guys, what am I going to do? I don't have any powers. How am I going to survive these trials? So this is book 1, Powerless. This is book 2, Reckless. This came out last summer. And now book 3, Fearless, is coming out in like less than a month. I can't wait to see how this story ends. Let me know if you guys are excited too. Okay, we can't talk spring new releases without acknowledging the queen. The one and only Emily Henry is coming out with a new book on April 22nd called Great Big Beautiful Life. It's pre-ordered. I'm waiting with bated breath. I'm so excited for this one. It kind of is reminding me the plot of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And it seems like a mix of like beach read and book lovers. I don't know. I can't wait. This book's about 2 writers who are competing to earn the privilege to write the biography of this famous woman, Margaret Ives. So they're both on this fictional island with Margaret, hearing her story and like writing and competing, after which she'll choose the person who she's gonna let write the story. Here's where it gets good, guys. Margaret is telling each of them different parts of the story, and they're not allowed to tell each other the parts of the story. So they like both have missing pieces. I feel like it's gonna be like, oh, what do you know? I don't know. I might know something. There's gonna be a little bit of that. Everyone is going to be reading this spring and summer. And if you are not a huge fan of traditional contemporary romance, I do feel like Emily Henry is one that appeals to kind of a broader audience because her stories often do really read like literary fiction. As you can tell from kind of the plot, like this book has a plot and she always just has such great tension and banter. Okay, and then the 5th and final new release that I wanted to throw on your radar in case you missed it is One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This is a companion novel to Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, which did numbers a few summers back. But in this story, we're returning to Barry's Bay where that first book takes place, and this one follows the brother Charlie. So if you haven't read Every Summer After, it could be a fun one to read in anticipation of this release. This book comes out, I think, May 6th, and One Golden Summer follows our main female character, Alice, who's a photographer. And basically, Alice's nan lives in Barry's Bay, and she visited her nan back when she was like 17. She took this photo of these 3 teenagers in a speedboat, and that photo, I think, was some kind of catalyst for her photography career, her love of photography. It just kind of changed her life. And I think this book kicks off with Nan falling, hurting her hip, and needing some help and care. So Alice volunteers to come stay with her Nan for the summer. But as soon as they settle in, she hears the roar of a familiar yellow boat, which is the same speedboat from the photo. And guess who's in it? None other than Charlie. So I feel like this one has a ton of potential. And I feel like Carly Fortune just does such a good job writing a setting. Like you just feel so transported and immersed in whatever setting she writes in. I'm sure this book will be no different. So those are 20 books to choose from if you're looking for something to read this spring. I hope that this video was helpful and gave you some ideas of things to add to your TBR. Let me know if you like videos like this. I can continue to do them for each season if you'd like, because for all my seasonal readers out there, I see you. If you made it this far in the video, comment down below with the tulip emoji so I can know who made it to the end. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss a video from me. I put out weekly videos on everything from TBRs to reading vlogs and Kindle tips, so would love to have you stick around. And in case you missed my March reset vlog, I'll leave it in a card here. It's a great one to check out next. If you love longer, bookish, chatty vlogs, it was a really fun one. I talk about the books I read last month and set up my reading journal for a new month, and we just have a lot of fun. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you super soon in another one. Bye!